Hey, this is Mike Metcalf here. Thanks, Bryce, for having me along and allowing me to participate in the Man Up Charlotte event. I am from the racing community. We are so obsessed with speed in our sport and everything we do there that we're a little slow to get out involved in some of the other things that are going on in the world. And so I probably should have been along for this journey long before now, but I'm glad it worked out now. So what I want to talk about is the guy. I've been in racing for 15 years. I started played football in college, Appalachian State. Went from there to career in racing. I was an era where they were pulling athletes to be on pit crews, and so first point for the day that has nothing to do with what I want to talk about is I had auditioned for the job. There's a tryout where I had to do many of the things that I had to do in football. So I was prepared for that. I had trained for those things. It went well. They wanted to hire me in August, and in January I still had not been offered a position, and so I had kind of planned on doing that. And I remembered here, I heard a sermon, maybe early January, and the pastor said, sometimes God opens doors for you, and it's up for you to go walk through them. And so I had 6 months of them saying, "Hey, we want to hire you. We want to hire you." So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this out and see what happens. So I showed up to work, and they were not expecting me. But the competition director at the time made a call down to the parts room. It was like, "Hey, do you guys still need somebody?" I think I'd heard that, and they were like, "Yeah, we need somebody yesterday." And so I started that day. I worked late that night, and that's how I started. About a little over 15 years ago, and so I worked my way from being just working in the parts room to making no money, driving an hour and 20 minutes to work every day, to being on the developmental pit crew, to being on the Cup Series pit crew, to being a team captain, to now running an entire department. And I'm a player coach now at Chip Ganassi Racing. And on the side, I do deck leadership. And when we got to Ganassi Racing, our team was not doing so good. The team wasn't great on the pit crew side, a lot of problems. And so coworker Sean, we've worked together for 14 of those 15 years. So we took this department over together, and we've been able to experience championship moments and wins and exposure for our company, and a lot of things that had not happened previously. And we came back to, to think about what were the things that made us strong, and it was diversity, efficiency, culture, and kindness. And there's a different track for that when it comes to corporate environments. But for today, I want to intersect that with fatherhood. And as a husband, as a father, it's these aren't always the easiest of times. Going through quarantine was really hard for me. I went from being in the racing season, traveling. We had just finished this West Coast swing where I'd been out and back to the West Coast 3 times in a short span. Just got the season kicked off, and then it was just a hard stop. And my wife works from home, and she was busy, and so she had to ramp up her work, and then I had to just be at home with the kids all day, and I really struggled. And so some of the principles of deck that I've applied to everything else in my life, I never really applied to being a father. And so some of the things that I've learned from this time, I just want to share now. So number one is diversity. Diversify your family experience for yourself and for your family. That includes mentors. Diversify your friendships, the places that you travel, the churches that you attend, the places that you volunteer. It's so important that we understand that we are not perfect as dads. My dad did a lot of things really, really well, and I can still point to those. And there are some things that he just missed it. He just did, and I'm gonna miss it, and I have missed it, and you're gonna miss it also. And so But the one thing that we can do is that we can bring in other voices, we can bring in other mentors, we can bring in other families, we can bring in wise counsel, books that maybe we wouldn't have read, to give our children experiences that maybe we couldn't give them ourselves. And so a lot of that is humility. All right. So number one fact about diversity is humility and accepting, hey, maybe the way that I see this or think about this, maybe there are other options to it. And so I just want to challenge you, man. Diversify your fatherhood experience for your children. Give them things, opportunities that you didn't give, not just money, but like experiences. And that's presence, that's humility, that's connection, that's taking time to see them and to see them flourish, in maybe ways that we didn't when we were younger. Efficiency, like I said, power equals work over time. In things that do not matter, be fast so that you can be slow in the things that do. Packing a lunch, a bag for your kid. Hey, knock all that stuff out as quickly as you can. Changing diapers, in the middle of the night. Make as much space as you can for your kid to just throw a ball back and forth for 45 minutes and be okay with it, because you've knocked out things that weren't really as important, And so efficiency is all about speed for us, but sometimes the best way for us to get a tire changer to improve his overall times is to actually slow his hand speed down. Accuracy is sometimes more important than speed. And so the efficient way to be a good dad is actually to just slow down and spend time with your kids. It's something that I'm learning and something we probably all can get better at. Culture. A lot of us are athletes, and so we understand that culture is super important. And you would never go into a season without some kind of, strategy, a slogan, a motto, a T-shirt, something that you can cling to. Every coach does this. There's that kickoff meeting at the start of the year to outline the expectations. One of the things I want you to think about is goals versus standards. Goals are what we want to do, but standards is how we get there. And one thing I'm learning and have been able to kind of reflect and see in my own life is that more is caught than taught. The standards that you have for your career should match or be greater for your family. I want you to think about that. It's so easy for us as athletes, to come in and as men to come in and have a strategy for work. But then when we get home with the kids, it's just like holding on for dear life and whatever your wife tells you or sit on the couch and just gotta try to numb it all out. But I think it's important that that culture, what happens when you walk in the room, what happens when your kids see you, what does your wife think when you get home? These are all important questions for us to think about. And so bring that championship culture that so many of us have from our work and our sports careers. Bring that home. Like I said, more is caught than taught. Show them what those standards are, the standards of being in your home, and they'll follow. And then lastly, kindness. Let kindness overflow. You got to be gracious to yourself as a dad and as a husband and as a father. We're gonna mess up again and again and again, and then your kids are gonna upset you. Your wife is. These are common human things that happen to all of us, and so it's so important that when we interact with ourselves and our stories and how we feel and where we are and what we want, what we need, what our standards are, etc., that we're putting kindness in that. So important that we're kind to ourselves and for our journey and give ourselves grace to fail. We say all the time in racing, fail quickly. You're going to make mistakes. We're trying to hit 5 lug nuts off in less than a second. Mistakes are going to happen, when you're shooting for and striving to be the absolute best. And so keep striving to be the best every day as a man of faith, as a father, as a husband. Fail quickly. Be kind to yourselves and let that kindness overflow to others. That's all I got. Hopefully it's been a great man up experience for you. And you can find me at mike@deckleadership.com if there's any questions or you want to continue this conversation. Thanks.